there. Is there something I'm not doing correctly?
Make sure you're signed in, Jimmy. Top right-hand corner, make sure you're signed in.
I have anyone with the link can view, and that would be the issue. You want anyone with the link can edit. Okay, I just updated, so you might have to refresh your screen. Scott, thanks for the heads up.
Thank you.
Like I said, we never have any technological issues here. Renee's the only one. Hi, Allison. Hi, Jeff. Hi, Brett. Lindsay, welcome. We'll do one more shared notes in here. This meeting is being recorded, as I'm sure Zoom told you when you entered the room. We'll be sharing this out for any colleagues that aren't able to attend today. We've had a few people say that they won't be able to attend for various conflicts, etc. Okay, Chrissy, we good to get going?
I think we're good to go.
Excellent. So welcome everyone. This is the Early College Coordinators meeting. It is the kickoff meeting for the 2021-2022 school year. We're super excited to have the opportunity to work with you all again this year. We'll have 4 meetings, each of which has been scheduled, though they're roughly evenly placed throughout the school year. There'll be 2 in 2021, 2 in 2022. We'll talk about the date and times in just a second, so you have them on your calendar. We've also sent out calendar invites, or we will send out calendar invites shortly. I don't think we've included the listserv until we get everything updated. So we'll send those out soon. If you have not joined us before, Early College is kind of an umbrella that covers advanced placement or AP, International Baccalaureate or IB, and concurrent enrollment or CE ecosystems. And so that's what we'll be focusing on and having conversations related to today. If you have not joined us before, we also use a shared notes structure, which acts as both our agenda and our note-taking kind of portal. And so as we go, feel free to throw questions in the chat. Feel free to come off mute and ask questions as they come up. And you can even interact with those shared notes and type in questions in the notes. And sometimes we'll be asking you to interact with that document to give us feedback, make suggestions, share your insights, etc., etc. So our objectives for this meeting, we only have 2 today, although we'll be covering some other updates that cover other stuff as well. But our focuses today are hoping that you feel prepared to complete your early college reporting and application. We'll talk about that kind of time frame, but as you may know, the reporting was due on Friday. If you haven't completed it, that's okay. But the due date for the application is going to be a little harder, and we'll talk about that later in the day. The second objective for today is to identify success criteria in our Utah early college ecosystem. We'll be talking about what that looks like, jumping into the dashboard a little bit, both connected to the reporting application and the success criteria, and sharing some data from statewide circumstances throughout the day. So, Chrissy, you want to get us kick-started?
Yes. Welcome. We're so glad you guys are all here. We know you're busy and making time to be with this community. We really appreciate it. We learned so much from all of you guys. As it is a new year, we've got some new people. And so we just wanted them to take the opportunity to introduce themselves to our team. So if you are new, please just chime right in. Tell us who you are, what district you're in, what you have been doing, and how you've led into this new position. And just keep in mind, for those of you that are new, later on in this, when we go over some of the updates, we do want to share out that we do have an early college support list that you can reach out to, people that are willing to help and support. And again, we'll go over that shortly, but just keep that in mind. So we're going to turn it over to our newbies. Feel free to jump right in.
My name is Corley Ward, and I am out in Tooele County School District and am taking over for Renee, who's been helping me a lot.
Awesome. Welcome. Anybody else that's new? Don't be shy. We don't bite too hard.
I guess I'm new. I started doing it midway through last year. I'm Michelle Leonard. I'm with Lumen Scholar and I'm CE coordinator.
Great. Welcome, Michelle. We're so glad to have you here. Don't be shy. Is that everybody? Okay, well, what we're going to do is, again, we'll go over this in a little bit of time, but there is some support that we would like to be able to offer you here. We have people in this space who have been doing this for a while, and they are wonderful and so helpful. And we'll go over that list shortly, but just be aware that we're a team and we are so happy to help out and help you guys transition on board here. So what we'd like to do at this point, like we typically do, is just have a breakout session where we go into little groups, and then you guys can just kind of get reacquainted, get to know new people, but also just share how your summer's gone personally and professionally. And perhaps just share out one of the things that you guys are working on towards your new, this new year. So Nate, do you mind setting up those groups for us?
Nope. Happy to do it. And Christy, maybe just for folks that haven't been here before, maybe we could introduce our kind of USB team as well, if you want to kick us off.
Oh yeah, thank you. Great plan. My name is Christy Schreck, and I work with Nathan in the early college space. I oversee advanced placement and international baccalaureate. I worked for USBE for a little bit before. I was in their educator effectiveness before I switched over to this role. So that's a little bit about me.
And my name is Nathan Ock. I am the STEM coordinator and early college specialist focusing on concurrent enrollment within the Utah State Board of Education. And then Teresa, if you want to go next.
I am Teresa Hartvigsen, and I work with both Christy and Nate.
Awesome. And Etiana, if you could jump in and introduce yourself as well. I know you were in here somewhere. I don't see you at the moment.
Okay, yes, my name is Etiana, but you can call me Eva, and I am.
Okay, I heard most of that, Eva. Your microphone was acting a little.
Okay,
Oh, there we
my
go.
name is Eva, and I am Nathan's STEM secretary.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us, Eva. And I think I also saw Lindsay James. Feel free to introduce yourself in the chat, Lindsay, or come off mute, whatever's easiest for you. Lindsay is our dash. Awesome. There she goes.
Real quick. Yeah, I am a member of the data and statistics team. I'm one of the two on our team that have put together the early college course taking dashboard. So I'm just here to help with that.
Cool. And then we also have some data and research help. Jimmy, if you want to jump off mute and introduce yourself as well. Dr. Henderson.
Hi, everyone. So so I've been working closely with Nate and Christy on the early college indicators that we're hoping to slowly introduce to you all. And so been with the agency for 2 years, and I'm enjoying the work that I'm doing with Christy and Nate. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Dr. Hernandez. And now let's introduce ourselves to one another. We're going to jump into breakout rooms for about 5 minutes. Christy has one thing before I create them, though.
Before we jump in, just wanted to have Teresa share out too. Did you get to share?
I did.
Okay. Wow. Okay. I really am having an interesting day with my pop exploding in my memory here. Just want to make sure, because Teresa is an amazing support system to our team. So glad she said it already.
Okay. We'll see everyone in about 5 minutes. Breakout rooms should be open. If you have any issues getting in, I can put you in those rooms. Let me know. Remember when we were first starting on Zoom, and every time you open breakout rooms, like there would be at least half of the people that just couldn't figure out how to get it in, or like Zoom would glitch and like they actually couldn't get in.
Yes.
It's neat that now it is working much more smoothly than it used to.
That was my wording in too. I was like, it's such a smoother transition now.
Yeah.
We
While
still,
we're-
We might get Zoom whiplash when we come back, but this getting in there is a lot smoother.
Indeed. Okay, so we started at 10:12. We'll bring everyone back at 10:17. We'll only be 2 minutes behind. That seems pretty good.
Okay.
Okay.
Do we want them to, do we just want them to share out at all or just?
I think let's, just because it's the first day, I don't know of the year, I think folks might have a lot of questions about stuff as we go. So I kind of think we skip the share out if you're comfortable with that.
Totally good.
Okay. I'm going to jump into a few rooms that have less than 4 people. See how folks are doing.
We've got Robert. Robert, are you able to get in? Maybe he stepped away for a moment.
Yeah. Teresa, do you mind hanging out up here if Robert needs to jump into a room or other people come in? Can you see the breakout room
I
button
can.
on your side? Okay, so you can put people in a breakout room if they join. Excellent.
I did get a little bit of pop on my mouse, so while they're in breakout rooms, I'm gonna go clean up my mouse.
You're gonna find it for like the next week. Oh, Christy, I just noticed
Yes.
I put page 2 to sign in and it's not. People are signing in where it says to gain access to your LEA dashboard. So I'm gonna take him out of there and just put him in the sign in.
That's great. Thank you for noticing that.
Sorry, I just noticed that. It was my bad. I said, I'm the one that put page 2.
Very good.
Let me hurry and fix that.
Welcome, Stephanie. Can you hear? My fingers are so sticky, like right in between my ring.
He's past time. Do you want me to send a message like 2 more minutes?
Let's just do like 1 minute.
1 more
warning.
minute?
Yeah, and then we'll pull them back out. We have a lot to go over today, so.
Okay, I send it. I put 1 minute warning.
Awesome. And then can you pull them back, or does that warning automatically pull them back?
I can close them off.
Okay, let's pull them back.
56 seconds. The timer's on.
Okay.
I set the timer.
Awesome.
They'll all start popping back in like any minute. Yep.
Here he goes.
Okay, we still have 3, 6.
Welcome back, everyone. Thanks to Teresa for the warning. You got a little more than 5 minutes because Nate got wrapped up in a conversation and forgot to close the breakout rooms. Also, welcome to those that were not here initially. One more sharing, maybe Christy just did this, one more sharing of the shared notes. Please feel free to click on that welcome sign in below link, sign your name in that table, and you can follow along with us on our shared agenda. So Chrissy, I'll start with the dates, and then since I have the CCR, and then we can transition to your stuff at the bottom. So we've included the dates for all 4 early college coordinator meetings on the agenda. I'll share my screen so that you can see it if you're not already on it. Let's move this over here and make it a little bigger. Okay. So obviously we have today, and then we have November 30th, January 27th in 2022, and then April 12th. Each of those is 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. And Eva, I don't think that we have invited the entire community to those other meetings yet. Is that right?
We have, but the agenda is not attached.
Perfect. Okay. So hopefully you already have those calendar invites on there. If you do not, just make sure that you have your name and email in the sign-in, and we'll make sure that anyone's email who is in the sign-in gets invited to those meetings. And obviously, they're optional. These are here for support for all of you. And so if you missed one, no worries, but know that we are also recording them, which in the case that you're not able to attend in person, that you'll have access to that material. So I wanted to just, we don't have the finalized standards for this course yet, but I wanted to make sure, I mentioned this last year, and I wanted to give everyone an update on our college and career readiness course. I think that there's 2 ways that this course kind of intersects with this community's kind of broader interests. The first of which is the course is being written as a concurrent enrollment course. And so we hope to have standards aligned with potentially all 8 of the Yushi institutions on next year's, this upcoming year's CMAL, and then the partnerships that occur in the spring. So there has been a significant demand for this course. It's basically the skills that students can use in order to be successful in pursuing college and career after high school. And so we got a committee together last year and did some work to build these standards. The standards are almost ready, and we're hopeful that they're going to be on the docket for approval on the November board meeting, which means we'll be able to have it on the CML. And then once it's on the CML, for those that don't know, the CML is the concurrent enrollment master list. Courses need to be on that master list in order for you to be able to offer them for concurrent enrollment in the LEAs. And so hopefully you'll have the opportunity to offer that course next year at this time. And hopefully it'll also be on the CML early enough for you to be able to schedule it when everyone does their scheduling in January, February, and or March, depending. So we'll share the standards once they're available at our November meeting. I'm hopeful that we'll have information as to whether those standards have been shared and will be available. It looks like, and I'm gonna go, Kelly Booth has raised her hand.
I just wanted to say, Nathan, we're working with Weber State this year, and we're piloting the FYE course to our 10th graders. I saw someone had a question about what grade it would be targeted to, but we're piloting FYE. It's called First Year Experience through Weber State University, and we're doing that course this year for the first time. So,
oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I appreciate that. We would love to hear not only how it goes, and also once we have the standards available, we would love to see like feedback. We'll have the opportunity to update those standards as needed going forward. So that's a great pilot.
I saw somebody asked what CE credit it would count for. For us, it's going to be elective this year. It'll be elective credit with Weber State. So that's just the arrangement we've made with that. That's where their FYE class is elective college credit. So it would go where the college sent, like how the college defines it. That's where it would go in terms of credit.
Nathan, Kristen Campbell suggested Kristen Campbell suggested a code to be used because we have 3 institutions piloting. Let me look in the emails, and it's a 25 code. I'll put it in your chat in a minute.
Okay, thanks, Sid. I appreciate that. Jill, I'll come down in just a second. The other thing I wanted to say is from a CTE perspective, this course is going to live with kind of 1 foot in teaching and learning and 1 foot in CTE. So while it won't be available for CTE funding, AKA it's not like, I don't know enough about CTE to be precise with my words here, but I'll say that it won't be available for CTE funding if you offer it. However, it will be applicable to any CTE pathway. It will be skills that, like, regardless of the pathway students are on, it will be applicable for them. And so whatever, well, I won't say anything else unless folks have questions about it until we can talk more about what the specific standards are. One other thing is the credit that is going to be issued for this will be different for each institution potentially. Most of the credits are likely to be elective, and depending on what course they have, that institution has the standards that have been written aligned with, the credit could differ. Jill, you have a question or a thought?
Yeah, you were actually, it's being answered. I'm just wondering about the grade, people in the chat asking what grade it's targeting, or if it's for all.
Oh, yeah.
9 through 12 or.
So we haven't actually identified a specific grade yet. There was conversations about both ends of the high school kind of spectrum, early or late. There was arguments made for both. I think currently it's going to be positioned as an 11-12 course, but with that said, based on the update in concurrent enrollment legislation a few years ago, it's actually going to be applicable for 9, 10, 11, or 12. One other thing to note about the design of this course is it's set up to be kind of supportive of the financial literacy standards. And so there will be a little bit of overlap. There will be some talk about finance, as there probably should be anytime you're talking about college or career. And it's going to be complementary, not a replacement of or totally separate from. And so that the hope is that eventually financial literacy and this college and career readiness course have the opportunity to be effective like preparation tools for students outside of the kind of gen ed content area we offer within the LEA. I should also pull up the chat and so that I can better monitor it. Any other questions about the CCR course before we move on to our next item?
Can you remind me, who is it that's piloting? I missed your name. I'd just love to connect with you.
It's Sid, it's Sura that was talking about the pilot.
Well, yeah, I do know, but someone in Weber, right? Weber area?
It's New Ames Early College High School. So Kelly Booth, Don Winter,
Okay.
us at New Ames, we're piloting with Weber State University.
Snow's offering it to, and I think Salt Lake Community College or Southern Utah, one of the S schools is offering a class.
Excellent. And New Ames, you do not have another question, or do you? Okay, cool. I'm going to pull up the chat here, make sure I haven't missed anything.
Nathan, I have one other question. Is there an idea for who is qualified to teach it? Any teacher, any teaching and any teaching as a profession teacher, any CT teacher?
Yeah, that's a great question, Jason. So the way that we have positioned this, I'm going to need to look at the document to be precise, but our hope is that the teaching load is actually a collaboration between several different teachers, the counseling department, someone at the partnering Yushi institution, as well as potentially an ELA or a CTE teacher can be teaching, like can be the teacher of record. And there's a specific license that we had identified, and I don't have it in my head at this moment, but when we release the standards, it'll explain that. And so what we try to do is make sure there's a lot of flexibility for who can teach the course, because I think that there's a lot of different folks that have the opportunity to be effective or successful at teaching these standards.
From a higher ed perspective, I did ask the CE directors the last time we spoke if they could start quizzing their institutions, because we have statute that says a master's degree in the discipline. Well, what's the discipline for a college and career ready course? Only one institution's responded to me, and that institution said we'd be okay with an MED. And so we'll have to massage what the institutions will approve. A lot of these first year experiences and college transition courses that might align are taught by advisors and staff that don't have tenure positions. And so it's going to be an interesting one to navigate, but we hope to have a lot of leeway from the higher ed perspective also.
They'd probably be taught by advisors that don't have master's degrees. So we'd certainly hope they extend the same courtesy to us.
Exactly.
And so, Jason, there is a stipulation within the statute that says, so it's a master's degree in the discipline, a master's degree period, plus 15 to 20 hours of coursework within the discipline, or
qualifying experience.
You got it, qualifying experiences. So what my hope is that we can leverage that qualifying experiences provision within statute for there to be flexibility within this space. And we look forward to working with our higher ed partners to find the compromise in that space.
Hey, Nate. Hey, just an ask, if as you guys get closer, if sometime January, February, as schools start working on master schedules into next year, if we could get any information that we have at that point that would allow us to understand all the questions that have been asked here, as far as like who can teach it, what is the preferred grade level to target, anything that you've settled on. But if we could have that before March, that would be great, because everybody's going to be building master schedules and having student requests, and it'd be really good to send that information out early rather than after schedules have been built.
I appreciate that suggestion, and it is my target to have this information available for our November 30th meeting. And so obviously there's a little leeway that needs to be given because the board has to approve the standards in order for them to be out there in the wild, et cetera. And yeah, I totally get that that kind of timeline. January is like when a lot of LEAs start building schedules. So it is, we'll do everything in our power to have all that information to you before the new year.
Hey, Nathan, really quick, just some feedback about what we are working very closely because it's a pilot with our Weaver State partners, and we followed what they would require of their FYE teachers, which Weaver State is a master's. So that's what we did in terms of hiring and assigning our teachers that are, we have 2 teachers teaching the course.
Awesome.
So
they want
and there's a request.
We're happy to show the syllabus.
Perfect. Would you mind putting that in the shared notes? Just a link to wherever the syllabus lives on your website. That'd be great.
For sure.
Much appreciated. Okay, let's transition to the next topic here. We have, if anyone's been following the board meetings as of late, you will have noticed that there have been some conversations surrounding equity. And if anyone has listened to public comment lately, you will notice that it has become a little more incendiary than what we are used to within public comments at the state board level. As you may also have experienced in your own LEAs, the LEA board meetings have also become more contentious, with circumstances occurring across the state that are in some cases outside of the bounds of respectful correspondence and discourse in a kind of public setting. And so our agency has worked together across departments to create some resources for engaging not only students, but some of these resources are also appropriate for adult groups, engaging folks in challenging conversations when there are disagreements and compromise needs to be reached. So we're not going to spend a ton of time with these resources. It's kind of adjacent to our early college space in general, but our leadership at USB has asked that all of our kind of statewide groups have the opportunity to kind of jump into these resources. You'll see them on the shared notes here, where it says orchestrating productive classroom discussions and 4 keys to successful implementation. So the top one is kind of centered in the classroom, and the bottom one has the opportunity to have application outside of the classroom as well. We just want those to kind of be out there in the wild. If they're germane to your work, awesome. If not, you can let them fly. So next up, we have Yushi updates. And we have one Sid Grua with us to share anything that would be germane to our public ed circumstances. Sid?
Goodness sakes. This is a shotgun approach to observations I've had in the last week talking to LEAs about the beginning of the school year. I'm going to run through it really quick. This is what just comes to my mind, and I would like to hear from you if there's any other information you have. It is the case that one of the hot topics has been the APIB college credit transfer issues changes, and especially changes around the language arts courses, both AP and IB. And it's not surprising that there will be angst about both of those exams, because it's the same Yushi Majors Committee that makes these determinations for those courses. I'm going to put in the chat in a minute a link to our website at the system office that lists what the credit awards will be. And I get the impression, and you'll probably tell me I'm wrong, that the biggest issue here was not the change of what was being awarded, but the timing, and that we were naughty and did not inform our partners in public ed February 2020 that we had College Board in the house, and they were telling us about helping us determine what we should do to change our credit scores. Please note that this stemmed not from us, like we have nothing better to do with our time in higher ed and we're spinning our wheels. There was a legislative charge to the system that we stop awarding different credit at different institutions. It's an exam, and we should be awarding the same credit across all 8 degree granting institutions in the system. Major headway was made in February 2020. There is still work to be done, okay? But beyond the timing thing, I think one of the big motivations was to stop awarding elective credit For AP exams, for example, elective credit is kind of meaningless to students. It doesn't really do anything for them. It doesn't help them work toward a degree. So in instances where you see credit, fewer numbers of credits awarded for an exam, look at it to see if what was removed was the elective credit, because that's not a big deal. The second thing that I think is a big trend in this movement is for IB. And how many of you are IB schools in early college, Nathan? How many people on the call are IB schools?
I'm not sure on the call. I think we have 6 or 7 IB schools at the high school level.
9. Okay. The bottom line about IB, and I think that this trickles a little bit to AP, but you won't see it as much, is a movement towards awarding credit for a specific course versus just awarding gen ed credit. Used to be if you had an IB diploma, you'd get 30 gen ed credits. What does that mean? What does that mean? If you get elective credit, or someone waives the quantitative literacy requirement, that's great. But if you get credit for Math 1050, that credit counts as a prerequisite to Math 1060 or calculus. So I think the second thing I'd say about this movement with exams is a movement towards awarding credit for a specific course when there is an alignment to a specific course versus just waiving a requirement or awarding elective credit, okay? And a lot of the institutions have moved back and said these things will take place next year, these new awards versus this year, recognizing that you had students taking exams last spring that needed to know what the credit was. Is there any comment on AP right now or IB? Are you okay with that? And I'll put the URL in the share chat. Okay. The other thing that I think has come up that's interesting in the last couple of days, well, I will point out something that will be in the handbook. This is a small point. Interesting that we have so many different student information systems in play across the state and so many different ways of recording grades. We have some instances where high schools are having to do extra work to record the grade for a concurrent course. And we had major conversations about this in the spring. And what we're going to put in the handbook, which will be published in the next month, is the final outcome of our conversation saying, here's the best practice way to record concurrent grades on a high school transcript. And I'll tell you, the Tesla is to have 1 grade at the end of the year. And that's generally extra work and not doable for LEAs. So the next best aspect is to record a grade, a placeholder grade, every term that you record a grade. And at the end of the year, you do a calculation to get the cumulative grade for the course. And that's what gets reported on the institution, the Yushi institution transcript. There's going to be more explanation about that. But we can't really actually say there's one way to do this, because there are so many different student information systems with so many different rules, it's not possible. So what we pointed out was the 2 best practices, and we hope that will be not limiting to institutions and to LEAs, but a guide for you. So look for that in the next month. Observation about math. I've gotten phone calls from a lot of institutions about quantitative literacy math. First of all, snaps to everyone on this call and throughout the state, because we have in the last 5 years since the passage of what was called Senate Bill 196, doubled the number of students who finished their college QL senior year of high school. I want to say, I don't exactly have the 2021 numbers just yet, but in 1920, we had between 12 and 13,000 students in the state finish QL as a senior in high school, which I think is a pretty cool accomplishment. But what I'm hearing now is counselors at specific high schools, so it's not like abroad, telling students that they could skip secondary 1 and take 2 and 3, or they could skip 3 and get into QL math. And by statute, students have to finish secondary 1, 2, and 3 with a C or better to be able to take quantitative literacy math. And to some extent, I'm very much aware of instances where department chairs have been approached and they make exceptions. A couple of times they call me and ask me to appeal on their behalf. And there are exceptions to be made, but we've had also instances where a bunch of students from a single high school say, the counselor told me I didn't need to take 1. Counselor told me I didn't need to take 3. And those are not exceptions to the rule. Those are poor practice in advising. And so institutions have pushed back on that, saying, sorry, too late, you can't take that class. And so I would admonish you to go to Nathan's website or utahce.org and look for the 2021 math placement document. It's a one-pager, and it's for counselors helping students place in classes more than it is for parents. We also have an infographic on that site. And so those are the rules and the hoops to jump through. And I'll advocate whenever I possibly can for an individual student, but it's hard for me to advocate with my institutions when an advisor carte blanche told everyone, you still need to do this. And so that's been an issue in the last little bit. And opportunity scholarship. We do have one more year for the Regents Scholarship, based again on timing and feedback from LEA. So I'm glad people spoke up. But we're ramping up to have the Opportunity Scholarship be available. The commitment from the Yushi schools is supposed to be that every high school that wishes to offer it has one math, one science, and one language arts concurrent enrollment course available to any student who wants to work on that Opportunity Scholarship. In January, February, March of this year, I polled the CE directors and asked them, would you talk to your, here's what you offered a year ago, here's where there are kind of holes across the state. There weren't many, but there were some. Would you please talk to your partners and make sure that you're doing everything you can to accommodate one of each one of those three courses in every high school in the state? The messages that came back from my concurrent directors was, no problem, we're good. If there is a problem, if there's something that you need that you don't have for your students, email your director or email me and I'll pass it back to them. It's not a problem, but I want to make sure that that is available. I do not want to hear that we do not want to hear that any student in the state wanted to earn that Opportunity Scholarship and couldn't do it. And of course, they can also take AP or IB credit. So it's not black and white. And I mean, one of the high schools north, it was actually in Weber's area that we spoke with. My data said they weren't doing science for concurrent enrollment. Well, they have 3 AP courses. So, you can skin a cat multiple ways. But if you're having issues with a particular course that satisfies the Opportunity Scholarship, please reach out to your director and/or to me, and we'll see what we can do to make sure that's not an issue. Is there anything, what's going on with you guys? Is there anything else I could do, Nathan?
No, that's great, Sid. And we're trying to use language that isn't cruel to animals. So instead of saying skin a cat in multiple ways, we like to say feed 2 birds with 1 scone.
Oh, there you go. I'm good. Okay.
I've made that joke at least 15 times in the past 6 months.
I'm
Jill,
on
you have
it.
a question?
I'm on it. Thank you.
Joe, go for it if you want to come off mute. Yep.
I was just wondering if Sid or anyone else are you in the process of collecting any data on the senior math pathways and how they result in enrollment and completion of college degrees? Would that be on your radar at all?
So I'll take that one to begin with. Sid, if you have a follow-up, feel free.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
We have a committee that's working with the Competency Board of Mathematical Sciences. We are one of 18 or 21 states selected to participate in a kind of federal think tank connected with that exact circumstance, Jill. So we will be ramping up our efforts to engage in ensuring that our math pathways are supporting students in effectively matriculating into college coursework, as well as preparing them for whatever careers they're interested in. This is a big conversation nationally, and one that we'll have more to share in the near future. I would love to go to spend some time with both of the documents that Sid mentioned, and it was actually the CBMS group with Sid's assistance that created those 2 documents. I put them in the shared notes. They are right under the Yushi updates item, and so it's math placement for parents and students guidance and placing students in math courses LEA guidance. I made up those titles. They have different titles. I just try to make them descriptive so that you can see them. And it's a big shift from placing students based on their previous coursework to incorporating their interests in the process, which is what contemporary research says. So in looking at the chat, Sid, there's a question about the Yushi Conference on September 28th, a virtual Yushi Conference. Any word on that?
I will go down the hall running and screaming and get that information from Richard Gonzalez. We do have something and I'm not sure exactly what. I'm sorry. I mean, it's our Yushi conference that we used to have down in Provo, but we're doing it virtual this year. So I'll message him in a minute and ask him to give me a website or more information about it. Let me just say one thing about math, Jill's question. I think that the most dramatic thing about Senate Bill 196 forcing us to look at math was that it has been almost 20 years, 15 years. Let's do it 25 years. I can't do the math. In 1995, the legislature charged Utah colleges and universities with coming up with options for QL, okay? So when I was a student in the dark ages, my option was Math 1050, baby, and everyone had to take that. But in 1995, you all of a sudden look at the catalogs for our institutions, and all of a sudden there's these 3 QL courses, 1030, 1040, and 1050. But as recently as the year that legislation passed in 2015, as you well know, everybody was taking 1050 as if they were going to go into a field that required them to follow up with calculus. And I think the most dramatic change of or impact of this particular legislation is that we now promote, not only through concurrent enrollment, but on our college campuses, we promote 3 QL pathways. There was 1, there are now 3. And for those students that finish 1030 and 1040, and they're going to go into the humanities or art or a field that doesn't require calculus, they are truly done with math, which I don't think is a good thing, by the way, Nathan, because I think math runs the world. But I mean, they have gotten rid of a major hurdle to their completion. And I think for students that are not math savvy, that were going to go into one of those fields, it was a disservice to try and force them into college algebra because they didn't have that acumen. So that's a huge, huge difference in completion. As Jill does point out, if you satisfy the quantitative literacy requirement, but you're going to go on to calculus, you're still going to have more math. Okay, so satisfying the requirement, that's good in perpetuity, but having taken a senior year math course, that course is going to count as the prereq for a subsequent math course only for 1.5 to 2 years. So those students that are going into STEM fields still have more work to do. The other thing I want to add just quickly, and I would love to have feedback from you all at a future date, is we have spent so much time focusing on math. Nationally, when you look at conversations in higher ed, math is a huge hurdle for students. It's huge, especially when they've had a couple of years off. And in our state, senior year might be a year off. They might do service to their church, and that's another 2 years off, and they get really rusty. We want to turn our attention to English because we realize that English is also another barrier. And every year, English 1010 is the #1 enrolling concurrent enrollment course. And so I know that Salt Lake Community College is in the middle of a pilot of some courses. They're called ESL 1010 and 1020 at Salt Lake Community, but they are piloting courses that are prereqs for English 1010 for non-native speakers, for ELL speakers. Is that the right terminology, Nathan? And I've had conversations. Thank you. I've had conversations with a faculty member at Utah State, and in the next couple of months, I'm going to reach out to other faculty because I'm learning that we have these options in English on our campuses, but we've never extended them down to concurrent enrollment. And that would be a big, cool, huge thing to do. So if you have input or suggestions, or you hear anything about what we call co-requisite English, would like to know. We're not allowed to offer by statute what's called developmental or remedial courses for concurrent enrollment, but co-requisite courses are acceptable, and they're in higher ed. They're in a sweet spot right now where institutions are seeing greater success. Instead of making a kid take an entire semester of something that's a preparatory thing, they take the class that's as is offered, they add supports into that class, maybe make it a credit more, and allow students to finish. It's just apparently it's the current Wonderkin model. And so we want to look at English as well as continue to support math. That's all. Sorry. So thank you for letting me do that.
Awesome. Well, so first of all, I want to say this whole co-requisite ecosystem is one that when you look at the research, especially out of the Dana Center in Austin, Texas, it is remarkable the efficacy that it has for students in completing their QL coursework and being competent, knowing the math. Secondly, like from a kind of USBE perspective, we're really appreciative of Yushi's efforts in across their ecosystems, aligning what credit comes from what experiences. This is an issue that we've gotten a lot of complaints about both of our systems have over the years. And so we're really appreciative of their efforts to try to align that credit, as well as hearing the concerns that alignment process elicits for both our AP and IB community. That was like a separate meeting that we kind of had. And so we're just jointly appreciative of those efforts and look forward to continue opportunities to find compromises for those changes. So Christy, if you want to jump into the next, we're a little behind, but we have plenty of time. We're good to go.
Yes, thank you, Nathan. And thank you, Sid, for coming and sharing that information. We do appreciate that so much.
Thank you.
As Nathan mentioned, we are running a little bit behind in time. So I'm going to quickly go over this part so we can get to a more engaging part. As you'll notice in the early college agenda, there are a bunch of links to things for the next few parts. So I am going to share my screen with you guys. And just share the next item on our agenda, which is some infographics that we have created. Some of you may have already seen these before. But what we have done is worked with lots of stakeholders throughout higher education, USBE, as well as people out in the field. We wanted feedback on how we could create a messaging infographic for parents to help increase awareness for college and tech university opportunities while they're in school as well as afterwards. And we've created them into 7 different languages. We just barely got this completed yesterday: English, Spanish, Portuguese, Somalia, Arabic, Vietnamese, and Chinese. Please note, we did check into Navajo, as that is a part of our dialect here in Utah, but it's more of a spoken language, and the decision was made that it would not even be accessible for our parents. So we did not do that. But what I wanted to quickly do is just show you the finished product. And this is a sneak peek. This will be coming out to you shortly. We're going to send it out to early college, Yushi. We're going to send it out to our CDs and counselors, and just also have it housed on our website, the early college website. So that will be forthcoming, but we just kind of wanted to show you what it looked like. So during high school, it breaks it down for our parents as far as what options there are: advanced placement, concurrent enrollment, talking about the money that is saved by doing these programs, CTE, as well as IB. And, you know, it's just a quick preview of what these are for you. But we wanted it to be informative for parents, but not overwhelming, so that they could come in and say, hey, here's an idea. Perhaps I should talk to my teachers, or perhaps I should talk to my, counselors. It's just a piece to get them started. The second part, for after high school, breaks down the different types of colleges and has links to them. But then it has some definitions that they need to know to understand credentials and degrees. But my favorite part is this part right here, where it discusses, so parents can see, oh, what is open enrollment? Which schools offer it? Which schools offer the different degrees? And of course, there is a link at the bottom to Yushi's college guide, which has significant more information. But again, this is just a simple breakdown. And we do have it again in 7 different languages. We're really excited for this. It will be housed on our website, and you'll be getting more information about that. So we're hoping this will be a really great resource. All right, so transitioning into our next. Nathan, can you see my screen okay?
I still see the yep.
Okay.
Yep, you got it.
There's usually a frame right around it, but the frame is not showing up. So I just wanted to make sure. The next item that we wanted to share with you is the Presidential Scholar application is up and going. And this is, where we recognize students who have excelled in education and who have overcome barriers. And that's the important part. US scholars will automatically determine those high-ranking students. But our job at the state level, we have been tasked with selecting 2 students from each LEA to upload and apply here at this, this Google form, so that our committee can go over and go, okay, let's select 2 from our state based on those LEA choices that have been uploaded. This information has been shared out with superintendents, curriculum directors, as well as, our early college colleagues as well. The form, the information in the email is just a reminder. It's due October 22nd, 2021. So hopefully your team at the LEA level is starting to think about this and to get that information so you can uphouse it into this Google form so we can get that submitted at the national level. Any questions before we move on? Okay, great. That brings us to the next one, and this is just a quick overview. This is the link for the AP changes, updates, reminders. On this page that you can see, this link will take you there as well. It just lists all of the different things that are going on within the world of AP for coordinators as far as trainings, accessing information, manuals, but also the ordering deadlines are here on that second page, information that you guys will need to know for this year. Instead of spending time going over that with you, Nathan and I decided it would be more beneficial to be able to have that links for you, ask questions as needed, but we wanted to make sure that we weren't spending all this extra time running through everything if it wasn't applicable for everyone. But just know the resources are there as needed. And one more thing from AP. This was a partnership with the Community Foundation of Utah. Last year, they did the same thing. They are offering it again this year. AP computer science exams, they're able to cover the cost for some of our students that are experiencing socioeconomic difficulties. So read through this if that's something you're interested in. The contact information is here at the bottom, Michael Taylor with our college board. But again, it's a partnership to help cover exam costs for students experiencing socioeconomic. And some of the data that they pulled in, looking at it from last year, shows a great increase for those students. So one way we can help support our students. And our final item that we wanted to share is this link on the agenda. It's the Early College Coordinators Support List. This is a list that we put together last year. We recognized that we had new people to this space last year, and so we reached out and asked those that might be interested in helping to support new people. So our new ones this year, here is some information. If you signed up for this last year, please take a moment to look at it and update it as needed based on the needs of what's going on in your own community. But for those of you that are new, here is a resource that you have to be able to reach out to those in the field. Some of it relates to CE, AP, and IB. So we're looking at all the different aspects there. So any quick questions before we move on?
Sid put a question in the chat, Christy.
Let me pull that up.
It says, does the AP resource doc include the Yushi link?
It's a really long link. We like long links in higher ed.
The AP resource document was from College Board itself. So it wasn't something that I created, Sid. So I'm not sure if they linked it. I do not remember seeing it there.
Okay, then the link in the chat is the link that should give you comprehensive AP credit awards for AP, IB, CLEP, and DSST. And Steve Hood in our office updates it as changes happen. There's going to be more changes,
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for that clarity, Sid. All right, Nate, we'll turn it back over to you.
Excellent. Thanks, Chrissy. I am sticking that link in the shared notes, and Sid, are you in the shared notes? Would you mind just giving it a title? Whatever that document is meant to do, that would be awesome. If not, you just stick it in the chat, we'll get it in there, however you would title that document.
You know, I love Google Docs, and I'll
I
try
know
and do
you
shared notes right now.
Okay, so again, something that we didn't mention at the beginning of this, for those that haven't been here before, we do our best to not spend a lot of time just talking about updates that we can share in the newsletter. So additionally, if you have not been here before and you put your email below, we'll not only include you in the meeting invites coming up, but we'll also add you to our newsletter, our listserv, so that you can get our newsletter, because we try to make sure that these opportunities, we give folks a chance to ask questions about initiatives, and we don't spend the whole time just talking at you. And so the rest of today, it is our hope that it's a conversation connected to a few topics that we want to continue having a conversation about, the first of which is the early college dashboard. So we've been talking about this now from envisioning it to it being a reality. I suppose it's probably been a year or so, which is actually a really quick time frame for building a dashboard like this. This work was predicated upon the great efforts that Yushi put into this dashboard initially, and then they were like our collaborative partners in giving the code to USBE, and then we have kind of built out the visualizations to look slightly different. So what I want to do next for the roughly about 15 minutes is to go through the dashboard so that everyone can take a look at what's in it. Many of you have already been in here because it is necessary or helpful. If you use internal data, that's okay as well, but this dashboard is helpful for completing your reporting and then subsequently your applications for all of the different early college programs, as well as the GT program. So if you, well, we'll get to that in a second. I'll show you the dashboard. If you don't have access to the dashboard yet, we have a table within our shared notes. We would love for you to put your contact information so that we can get, so that Lindsay can take all of your names and give you access to the full dashboard. As an FYI, just as we're going in here, our immediate next phase is to create the Yushi service regions so that they have the ability to parse their data by those service regions so that our Yushi partners can engage more precisely with this data. And as an FYI, there is a level of the dashboard that you need a login for. However, there's also a level of the dashboard that's public information. So the first two pages, the statewide information and the LEA general information, is available to anyone who wants access to it. Whereas the final page that I'll go into is only available based on LEAs having a login, and you can get that through Lindsay James. So here's what our dashboard looks like initially. You'll see two buttons at the top left. You can choose the school year, and then you can dive into LEA details further from here. So what this shows is an aggregate data across your entire early college ecosystem. Sorry, across the state's early college ecosystem. And so what you can see is at the end of the last school year, that's 2021, we had almost 37,000 students in an AP course, and that's at least one course. Each of those students could have been in 20 courses, or they could have been in one. We had over 1,000 students taking an IB course, and we had over 52,000 students taking at least one CE course. Now, again, there are students that are counted in all three of these because the same student is taking an IB course, a CE course, and an AP course. But this is just to help understand how many students are participating in early college ecosystems at the state level. And then further, this data is disaggregated by several student groups. We have race, ethnicity, socioeconomic status, English learners, disability status, and gender. And as you can tell, there are significant disparities between the participation rates of students of different races. We can see the biggest disparity exists between Asian students and American Indian students. This gap is almost 40%, which is significant. With socioeconomic status across the state, we have roughly a 16% gap in participation between students who are not economically disadvantaged versus students who are economically disadvantaged. With the English learner population, it's 19% or so. The students receiving special ed services, there's a 30% gap. And then we even actually have a 6% gap in gender, which is bigger than in years past, which is interesting. Females being the higher course takers in the early college space. And so the differences in these student group participation is the big aspect of what we've been talking about regarding equity in the early college environment over the last few years. Socioeconomics should not make a difference in whether a student participates in early college coursework or not. The student's ability to understand English should not play a role, and it is and race, ethnicity, gender. These things should not play a role, and we find that they do. And so what we've been doing over the last few years is to identify some strategies that we can use to increase representation. The goal is that all student groups are fully represented within early college course taking patterns. So what we can do at this point is click on this LEA details button up here. And if you were in this a long time ago, it may have taken you a long time in order for everything to load. In the last few weeks, things have gotten really snappy. Lindsay, I don't even know what happened, but all of a sudden
we fixed it.
It's great.
Yeah, we went back in and fixed it.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate that. So now we have another category that we can choose, and that's choose an LEA. So I'll go to Alpine just because I'm going to jump into their CE details because they don't have any PII information within their details. So I can share that kind of publicly in a recording. But what we see is the same breakdown of student groups, and instead of it being statewide data, now it's just your LEA. So you can see within your LEA, what are the discrepancies in participation between ethnicities, between students experiencing economic disadvantage, et cetera. So we have all the same data, but this is LEA specific as opposed to state specific. Again, we can adjust the school year that we're looking at in order to identify trends over time. In the future, we hope to have a line graph at the bottom of that shows your gaps changing over time for different student groups. That'll be in version 2.0. But at this point, you also have the opportunity to jump into the specific AP, IB, or CE details. In this case, there's no IB details for Alpine because Alpine doesn't offer an IB program, but there is details for CE. So I'm going to click on this one. This is the point at which you will not have access to this if you do not have a login to your LEA's dashboard. And so now we've been given a whole nother menu to choose from. And instead of just school year, we have, and this says choose an LEA, but this is actually choose a school. All of the, oh, I am wrong. This is showing, oh, this is the, Lindsay, I'm not sure what I'm doing here. Do I need to click on that?
Sorry, what are you trying to do?
I just wanted to see a school's information. There we go.
Sure, yeah, okay.
You have to click on the school CE or the school button in CE. So now you have access to the year, you have access to the group, the student group that you want information about, and you have access to all of the different schools within your LEA. If you're a charter, you don't have to worry about that further clicking in, but if you're a school district, you have access to all the high schools, any school that offered concurrent enrollment, IB, or AP credit that you can see information about. So in this case, we're looking at socioeconomic status for American Fork High at the end of last school year right now. And what we can see is these bars demonstrate overall student overall student population, and then the blue bar indicates student group participation. So in this case, we have socioeconomic chosen, which means that this blue bar is indicating the percentage of students that are participating in concurrent enrollment as compared to the percentage in that student group, as compared to the percentage of students that are in that school overall. And what we can see is overrepresentation for all student groups in concurrent enrollment for American Fork High. But further, if you hover over these blue bars, you can see descriptions of what the information in the bar charts are showing. So it says percentage of total enrollment is 1.1% of high school population. So this is students who are economically disadvantaged. Only 1.1% of American Fork High's students are economically disadvantaged in this last year. And this data may be a little skewed because of all the federal stuff surrounding offering free lunch. The next line is percent of CE enrollment is 8.3% of participating CE students. So what that tells you is 8.3% of all participating CE students are experiencing economic disadvantage within this high school. And then in order to achieve full representation, they only need 1.1%. So in this case, this school is overrepresented, their socioeconomically disadvantaged population is overrepresented by 7%, which is awesome to see. But in many cases, we will not see that overrepresentation. We will see an underrepresentation. And I'm actually going to go back to LEA wide. So I want to go, oh, that's not what I wanted to do. Okay, we have LEA. This is for Summit Academy. So let's go to Alpine District overall. So what we can see across the entire Alpine School District is this blue bar is lower than the gray bar. That is an indicator of underrepresentation. So we have Alpine has 8.5% of participating CE students are experiencing economic disadvantage. In order to achieve full representation, they need 14.8% of their students to participate in concurrent enrollment who are experiencing economic disadvantage, which means that there's a 6.3% gap, an underrepresented gap that exists. That is what is kind of detailed by the difference between the blue bar and the gray bar. And that gap is the thing that we're asking for in the reporting, as well as the application, the difference between those two groups. If you are focusing on race, ethnicity, you can click that student group and you'll have access to that data. The same is true with multilingual learners, etc. You can also, as mentioned before, you can change the year in order to see what the differences and gaps over different years are. The reporting document, for those that have already been in it, ask you to identify the 2020 and the 2021 gaps so that we can see the progress that you made over this past year. And there's significant progress that's being made across the state, which is cool to see. And then finally, at the bottom here, we have trend lines for participation of the student groups that are identified up here over time. So we can see here's what's happened to participation, percent participation of white students in concurrent enrollment. And then we have Hispanic students, et cetera. And if we were to change this to socioeconomics, we'll see those two lines that will pop up down here. And we can see the trend of participation for those different student groups over time. So in this case, we can see that students not experiencing socioeconomic disadvantage, their participation is increasing, while students experiencing socioeconomic disadvantage is decreasing. And then further, we have the specific counts at the right, because we know the percentage difference is not the only thing that matters. And we also show that in the mouse over, is you can see the number of students necessary to participate in CE in order to achieve full representation. So that's a quick run through of what the dashboard does and what it looks like. We wanted to make sure that everyone saw that it is up and running, it exists, and now it's kind of snappy as well. Excuse me. So at this point, are there any questions, comments, or concerns surrounding the dashboard? We have a whole mess of things that we want to add to it, and we're super excited about where it's at today. So questions, comments, concerns, I'm not looking at the chat at the moment. I don't see anything in the chat.
Nathan, can I jump in?
Please.
I'm just wondering if you'd be willing to, or maybe you already have plans to add the gray versus blue bar for the statewide data to demonstrate percentage of demographics versus representation?
Yeah, so that elicits a good question, Jill, and it's one that we haven't talked about as a community. And frankly, like it kind of coalesced in my mind as we were building this dashboard. This dashboard identifies two separate gaps. The first gap is the difference in participation within a population as compared to that same student group within a program. So it compares how many students are socioeconomically disadvantaged in a school, and then the gap is identified by the percentage of students participating in concurrent enrollment or AP or IB. That is very different than if we go to the statewide or the LEA-wide dashboard, which identifies a different gap. This gap is the difference between students who are not socioeconomically disadvantaged and students who are economically disadvantaged. So it's comparing the gaps are different gaps that we're talking about. So Jill, the answer to your question, I don't know yet. For now, we are asking folks on the for their applications and reporting to use the LEA specific gaps and not to use this one. And frankly, you can't use this one because this is aggregate data across all the early college coursework. But we are kind of identifying two different gaps. As a community, if folks would find value in having both of those gaps identified at the LEA level and the school level, we can talk about that. And I think we need a little more discussion about what's valuable before I can answer that question. But I'm super appreciative that you bring it up, and it is a great question.
No, that's valid. I totally get it. Maybe just on a state level.
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying, but I think that some point of comparison should be made it's really helpful to a site, but less helpful to me. So yeah. I'm just looking for a little parallel. I could do it, but I'd love it if you guys did it.
Yeah, totally. Well, and that actually brings up a great point, is that at some point we need some comparative data. Like as those of you that participated in the Equity Lab previously, like the goal isn't to get to where the state is. The goal is to get to full representation. However, there is benefits to be able to see, like across the state, how does our data compare? So the answer is a definite yes, that we'll have that at the state level at some point. And I would set a goal of having that in place by the end of this school year. So that's a great question.
Maybe you'd be willing to do it by university service area as well.
Yeah. So that we'll have that in play before the end of the calendar year. I'm hopeful.
Okay. Nice, thank you.
Yeah, Lindsay said that because now we have everything built, putting service regions in play is just another button, and that's not as much work as like building the visualizations and getting the data right. It's remarkable how challenging it is to get all of this data right to feed into the system. I thought it was going to be a pretty fast process, and Lindsay and Kristen both were like, "This is big," and I was like, "Oh, it'll be fine." And they did so much work. David McKay as well was instrumental in that process. So if there's a few of you that are messaging me connected to like, and Camille, I'll answer that question in just a second. There's a few of you that are messaging me about access to the dashboard. Some of you had access previously and now don't have it. Some of you never had it and would like it now. Lindsay Janes is the contact that can help with that. Lindsay, is there anything that you would like to suggest to folks if they have had access and now they can't access it again? There's a few folks that have asked about that.
Yeah, so the ones that I've gotten emails for, I've checked and their permissions haven't changed. So they technically still have access. So most likely it might be something on their end, like a password caching or something. So I would suggest, trying the different browser, clearing your cache. If you have reset your password recently, then that could be the problem. And so then resetting your cache would fix that. So I would try those things. And then if not, they can email me and I can make sure that happened. But the ones I have checked, they're still in there. So.
Okay, and so I will say from my experience, I can't use Google Chrome to access this thing, unfortunately, which is the browser I generally use. So I have it in Microsoft Edge, my least favorite browser. So browser, I know that for me, browser type matters. And then if you search the internet, like all the browsers have different mechanisms for clearing your cache. Like I haven't had that issue, but I know that I have had one person that has told me that that is what caused them issues with getting back into the dashboard. So it's different for each of the resources or each of the browsers. Great. Further questions, comments, concerns about the dashboard? Seeing none, feel free to throw more in the chat. We are happy to answer questions as they arise. I'm going to stop sharing that screen and now share this screen. Okay, so the final thing we have on our agenda for today that we'll take up the rest of the time with is connected to our early college. Oh, we have two things more, and we are a little bit behind. I'm going to do a quick success criteria conversation today because I want to make sure that we have enough time for any questions about reporting and application. And then if we have time, we'll come back to this. I wanted to throw in here, we did an URSA presentation. The Utah Rural Schools Association puts on a conference every year. This year it was in Cedar City. Is that where we went? I was there.
Richfield.
Richfield.
To Richfield.
Richfield, right. You would think the only in-person professional learning event that I've been in the last 2 years, I would remember where it was, but apparently not. So I did a presentation, Christy and I did down there, and I put the full slide deck in the shared notes, so feel free to check that out. We wanted to just kind of identify a few things to remind folks about connected to applications and reporting, but also for those that are new to the ecosystem, help them to understand how this ecosystem kind of functions. So we have rhythms that operate throughout the year, and we're kind of building our hope is that these reporting and applications aren't just hoops, but also, so we try to make them as little onerousness as possible in them. This year, we reduced each of them by 1 question. So now they're both less than 10 questions long after like name and email and stuff. So we're hopeful that it doesn't take too much, like there's not a bunch of random questions that you have to answer, but we want this experience to be a continuous cycle of improvement, where you're not just doing the same things every year unless they continue to demonstrate efficacy. And so you use your local data to look into how things are going in order to each year improve experiences for students and make your ecosystem more effective. An important point in this, and the reason that we developed our entire ecosystem the way we did is because what works for Washington County School District might not work for UCAS, and what works for Alpine School District might not work for Duchesne. There's differences in charter schools, sizes, urbanity, community, geography, like there's so many things that come into play here. We want to make sure that you're empowered to do what's working for your students. And our kind of role in that is to support you in understanding what's effective across similar communities, and in some cases across all communities. So this continuous cycle of improvement kind of operates with these 4 pieces. In the fall, we're kind of setting goals, which is what our application for funding looks like. here's the strategies we're going to try to use this year in order to decrease gaps for underrepresented student groups, but also just to grow our programs in the ways that we want to. This isn't only about making sure every student has access, although that's a big piece of it. It's also about ensuring that the whole thing is effective. In the winter, we're putting those strategies into action. And as Roy had mentioned earlier, in the winter and or spring, we're starting to envision the next school year so that we can lay out our schedules and identify what we're going to be doing in that next school year, which leads to our reflection period, which is the summer when the reporting document is due. And the reporting and the application are pretty close now. That's just based on when data is available. We can't make the reporting due earlier. But the report is a time to reflect on what was effective and what's not. And the application is a time to set goals on what's happening in the next year. And so each year, this is just a continuous upward spiral of identifying strategies that aren't effective and then identifying the ones that are in order to improve what your community looks like. So as a state, our kind of roadmap has looked like this. 3 or 4 years ago, there was some awareness brought to the fact that concurrent enrollment, AP, and to a lesser extent, IB, all had like steep growth curves in credits earned each school year. But the gaps in participation between different student groups were pretty big. And so there was community awareness brought connected to those gaps. And then we started to analyze the data in local communities. This was our equity labs in order that everyone could identify strategies that worked within those local communities. We tested those strategies and identified innovations within this space. And over the last couple of years in this venue, we've shared some of those promising practices. That document that identifies all the strategies that every LEA in the state were using for AP, IB, and CE that we shared last year is an example of that. And then last year, we kind of landed on some success criteria that we're going to be digging into this year. And what I mean by success criteria is these are the things that you all have identified as necessary indicators of success within this early college space. So each of our meetings in this year, and in this case, we'll be highlighting some of the promising practices in our next newsletter, but we want to highlight some promising practices that have arisen within each of these areas of our success criteria. And this is a circumstance in which we're kind of at multiple, like different communities are at different places in this conversation. Some are just entering, some have been a part of the conversation from before we had it at a statewide level. But what we're trying to all work together in order that we can all move kind of up the roadway. And so before, oh, I might have forgotten to, I thought I had a success criteria slide. Maybe it got deleted. We have 4 success criteria that we're talking about this year. The first one that we want to get into is attraction of students. Like we want to recruit as many students as have the opportunity to be successful in early college ecosystems as possible. We want to make sure we retain those students. We want to make sure that there's a pipeline for all students that sets everyone up for success in being successful within early college. And then we want to make sure that the courses that we're creating are effective. And so those are our 4 success criteria that we're going to be using as themes for each of our meetings throughout the year this year. And we put some data in here connected to course taking patterns. We're going to have to kind of skip over this at this moment, but we'll put some more information about this in the newsletter, and then we'll be talking about retention during our upcoming November early college meeting. But we want everyone to be aware that this is a process that we're all engaging in. The pandemic has made things tricky, but it's something that we all went through together, and we're hopeful that these success criteria will start to give us a target to be able to work towards within our data sets locally, while identifying locally applicable strategies to ensure every student is supported in having access to this environment. So at this point, we want to transition into our early college reporting and application process. We are back to roughly on time. So the rest of this time period is going to be spent on those two documents. You will have, hopefully everyone at this point has received access to their reporting documents somehow. If you have not, reach out to myself and Christy, and we'll ensure that we get you access to those things. And so in this process, there have been some common kind of challenges that folks have run into. Qualtrics, well, so each of these documents is a Qualtrics-based document. And while they will come from either Christy or I, or in GT's case, it'll come from Trish French Stevens. This is what the email is going to look like when you get it. It's not going to say, whoa. It's not going to say to Nathan Hawk, obviously. It will say to whatever your email is. But it'll be my name or Christy's name. And then beside it, it's going to be no reply at, this is qemailserver.com. This is Qualtrics. So this may end up within your spam email box. This is not like some sort of phishing scam. I wanted to put a copy of what this email looks like in our notes so that you can ensure that you're not going to get your credit card information stolen or something when you click on this, or your computer virus. This is what it will look like when you get your, and in this case, this is the application email. So once you've completed, oh no, sorry, this is your reporting. This is the confirmation of your reporting. Once you access your reporting and complete it, we will send out applications. Many of you got applications yesterday or this morning for AP and or CE and or IB. We'll have those applications for those that have finished reporting out. All of them will be out by the end of the week if they're not already out now. There is some, with regards to due dates, the reporting was due on Friday. If you haven't finished it yet, that's okay. However, you need to complete it kind of ASAP because this application being due September 30th is a much harder deadline. We cannot allocate money to anyone until everyone has applications in. And that's why this application deadline is much more important. We're doing our best to be as responsive as possible during this process. For those that had a little bit of delay, I was in Iceland for 10 days. And so there was a little delay with some of my email. I did it while I was there when I could. But from now on, I promise that I will be more responsive with any emails that folks send me and or phone calls. Here's some common hiccups that we've run into. Qualtrics generated email can't be located, stuck in spam or got deleted. There's now on our FAQ, if you click on this document, there is an anonymous survey that you can use. Even if you can't find your reporting email that you got from Qualtrics, you can go to page 3 of the FAQ. And it'll say what questions are asked in the reporting survey. You can get all of the questions in any of the surveys here. And if you need a link to complete your reporting survey, all of the links are here. So you don't even need that Qualtrics generated email. However, that does make our life easier. So if you have that and haven't completed it, that's the one we would prefer. But if you don't have it, feel free to just use this one. Once you complete your reporting, Qualtrics will send you an email with your applications. And that there's less questions in the application than there is even in the reporting. The reporting has 8 questions, I think. Application has 7. If you have any questions about using the dashboard or what information the questions are asking for, feel free to reach out to any of us. But at this point, we want to give you all time to let us know, like, how has the process been? What can we assist people with in the present? This is questions, comments, concerns, anything related to reporting an application cycle. Chrissy, Go.
Hey, I do want to add one thing, Nathan. Thanks for
Oh, yeah.
that explanation. So helpful. Just a couple people have been asking about Utah grants. So I just wanted to clarify that that's the next step. These Qualtrics surveys for the reporting data allows us then to do the Qualtrics survey for the application. And then after that, then comes the Utah grants. So some of you have been reaching out saying, where's the Utah grants? We're not seeing it. It's not there yet. These Qualtrics surveys come first, and then the Utah grants is a follow through after that.
Yeah, that's a great point, Christy. What it'll look like is once you finish your Qualtrics survey, when this pops up in Utah grants, all you'll write is see Qualtrics survey for responses. But the one thing you'll have to put in is a budget. And so just like any Utah grants budget, you just have to identify what areas you're going to spend your money on. And then that'll be an easy completion. However, we will not allocate any money to anyone who does not have a completed application. And you will not get your application until you complete reporting for last year. This is board rule and statutorily mandated. We're not doing this to try to be a bugaboo in your side. We're doing this because the law says we have to. So please let us know what else. Sorry, Jason. You're not alone. That's why we moved everything to Qualtrics, is because despite the fact that sometimes Qualtrics has some hiccups, it is much more user-friendly than Utah grants. So we're trying to have as little interaction with Utah grants as possible, but to actually allocate money, there needs to be a little piece in there. And I agree with those exclamation points. Questions, comments, concerns? Questions on deadlines, when allocations are going to happen, any issues that folks are running into? This is not nearly as many questions as I had anticipated. Hopefully that's a good thing.
Nathan, this is Allison. I'm still struggling with even getting into the dashboard. And so I've changed browsers and done everything that I can think of. So I'm not sure where to go next.
Oh, shoot. So Allison, I think you had said you had been in the dashboard previously, and then now it's like somehow locking you out.
Yes.
Okay. Send me an email and I will just screenshot the gaps for whatever your student focus group is, just so that you can kind of move forward with the process. And then Lindsay, if you wouldn't mind working with Allison to try to figure out what is going on, that would be awesome.
Yeah, I think the dashboard's a great idea. I used it a lot on the reporting part. And so that's why it's confusing. It's not working. Anyway, thanks for putting it together, because it really is awesome.
Yeah, totally. Now we need to get it to the point where it's kind of seamless, where people can get into it anytime they want. And I'm really appreciative of Lindsay and David's idea to have your local email be the login for it, so that you don't have to remember a separate password, which is always a tricky part. But we want to make sure that it's seamless to be able to get into it and operate with it at any point.
Yeah, so the problem isn't being able to use my username and password. It just won't even allow me to put in a username or password. It just keeps saying unable to sign in. Invalid.
So Allison, that's on Box Elder's side. That means your password, for whatever reason, something saved on your browser and it's trying to use that to log into Tableau automatically. That's where, if you clear your cache or try a different browser, it should solve that problem.
I'll give it a try. Thank you.
Okay. Yep.
This is Jamie from Alpine. I ran into the same problem. And if I bookmark it, that's what happens if I try to go back to it through a bookmark. But I finally found a third browser and opened it and didn't bookmark it. And if I use the link, I can go back to it using a copied link. But as soon as I bookmarked it, It won't let me log in, but it also won't return to the login screen. It has nothing to do with my password. It won't open the login screen once it's been bookmarked.
Right, right. That's what I'm finding. It won't even go back
Yeah,
to the login.
It's just a loop. It says fail to log in, and you click a button that says log in again, and then it sends you, it just keeps, you hit the button to log in again, and it says failed to log in, even though you never put anything in. So
Yeah, so it has to do with, so basically what's happening, is where you accepted the Microsoft Azure invitation. And so Azure on the state side is simply just looking to your email authentication. So it's based on however your LEA has their email authentication set up. So it's trying to remember that for you, but since it's through 2 steps, right? Like we're not looking, Tableau's looking to Azure and then to your email, if that makes sense. It's going through an additional step. So that caching is happening.
So Lindsay, I have a question. I'm able to log in, but then when I get logged in, but this is Camille, by the way, it won't let me choose my LEA. It won't let me choose anything from the drop-down list. So it actually let me log in.
But let me check your permissions. I thought I had you on Davis, but let me.
Well, I was before. I was able to get into it before, and so I went in just like I normally did. But this time, today,
it can also be that for some reason when we updated the dashboard, that it should replace right in the exact same place. But there's a chance that sometimes with some I've heard that like it didn't replace for them, if that makes sense. So if they're just going to their recents, it's not working.
Okay.
You can try going like through the whole path again.
Okay, I'll try that.
But I'll check your permissions as well.
Thank you.
And thanks all for sharing like the challenges that you're having. These will help us be able to figure out solutions that we can share with everyone when anyone has this issue. So even though I know some of you are like, oh, this may only be me. And even if it is only you now, it's likely to happen to someone else in the future because everyone's LEA kind of ecosystem is different than the state one. So we're just super appreciative of being able to generate solutions for this. So thanks for sharing. Shauna, your application should be coming out for CEAP and IB by the end of the week if your reporting is approved. If your reporting is not approved and we need something else from you, you will get that by the end of the week. So as long as you're either shifting your reporting in some way before you get your application or you have gotten your application, you're good to go. So panic is maybe something I wouldn't worry about yet. You have 3 weeks to complete the application. But I would say if you don't hear anything about either of them by next week, reach out and ask us, whoever's the kind of pertinent contact, or just include both of us, Christy and Nate.
Thank you. So Nathan, can I ask another question? This is Camille again.
Yes.
In the last survey, we were able to go in and look at the survey before. Do you have that again for this new one, or do we still have to, do we go straight to the survey and just can look in there?
So
I just didn't see it in the document, so.
Okay, so I think the third question on the FAQ is what's in the 2021-22 grant application. And I think that all of these links should lead you to a PDF of all the questions that are in the application. That same thing exists for reporting further down in the FAQ.
Oh, okay, I'm looking at the wrong document. Okay, thank you.
Yep, no worries. And Sid, Christy is finding there's an error when registering for the webinar.
When I clicked on the link and tried to register, then it says there's an error and it seems you've lost your way and it doesn't let you figure it out. So I was wondering if there's a way to help troubleshoot that, Sid.
Oh, no, I have to basically walk down the hall and find Trish or Richard. And Christy, if it's okay with you, I'll email you the link, because that was what I found live on our dang website. So
Okay,
I'll get
thank you.
Hey, Lindsay, do we have, is the access to the dashboard from like the public standpoint with just the state and the LEA overviews? Will folks access that the same way that they access their individual dashboard? Or is there like a website where that lives?
So I think, so basically what we'll do is we'll put it on Tableau Public. So it won't be connected to the server, because to get to the server, you have to log in. So on Tableau Public, and then hopefully we'll be able to then put that on Data Gateway. So they would go to Data Gateway and click on the link, and then it would automatically direct them to the dashboard through Tableau Public.
Perfect. And so maybe it was Jamie had mentioned if she, like, Jamie, could you share a little bit more about what link you were going to? I'm putting like.
So when they first called 2 months ago and walked me through how to do it, I had bookmarked it using whatever link I was sent at that point. But I can't use the bookmark anymore. So the tableau.schools.utah.gov, when I copy and paste that link just during this meeting into Microsoft Edge, it took me to a login screen that worked.
Okay. So if in the meantime, Chris and Christine and Camille, could you try that workaround? We'll hopefully have a solution for you to be able to bookmark it at some point, but at least in the interim, does that let you get into it?
So mine is letting me into it, and but it's still not letting me choose any data. And I guess that maybe I'm needing to log out and log back in, but I can't even see how to log out.
I have not been able to find a
just
log out screen.
refresh.
I
don't know if you saw my email, Camille.
I did, but it's still not letting
One
me
of
do
the
anything.
permissions. So you log out by going to, do you see in the top right corner, it should have your initials? If you click that.
I did it,
and go
Mom.
to.
I did it, Mom.
You did it. Good job, buddy. Oh, sorry. 1 second. I'm on a. Yep. Sorry. 1 second.
I can work with you, Lindsay, at another time.
I did it.
I'll keep. Yeah. Let me figure it out. 1 second.
I've never logged out before. I'm in the dashboard right now trying to figure out how to log out. I don't know.
I thought that might solve the problem with my bookmarking. If I had logged out previously, it might, but I can't figure out how to log out.
So I don't think it, so I log out on my actual desktop version. And since you guys are just like technically viewers of the server, I don't know that you necessarily can. So I think that's why the options are clearing your cache and doing those things, because that essentially will log you out. And Microsoft Edge doesn't seem to cache things in the same way that Chrome does. So I think that's why it tends to work better.
So I was able to get in to where it said to the sign up page where it says enter your username. So I did that, but then it's asking me to enter a password, which I don't remember ever setting up or having.
Your password is the password to your email address.
It's the password to my email address.
Your Microsoft Azure. Azure is just looking to your email address for authentication.
Okay, let me try that.
Okay, so we'll keep seeing it. It sounds like different LEA ecosystems require different solutions. The clearing your cache is working for some. Using the Tableau link, you can get that link in the FAQ. That is working for some. So we apologize for Azure not working perfectly with all of the LEA contacts, but if you continue to have issues, just send me an email and with Christy, and one of us can send you screenshots of the part of the dashboard that you need in order to complete the reporting in the application. And then we'll keep troubleshooting on our end to see if we can find a solution. Okay, so that is all of our content for the day. Does anyone have any final questions, comments, or concerns connected to anything that we've talked about?
This is Sid. I just finally got a ping back that the meeting in September, the webinar has been canceled. We've had some changes in our staff in the office. Trish Baker will be in charge. So the register link should have been taken down, and I bet you it's going to be gone today. But if you check back to the link, that's the link for Ed Insights. When they have a new schedule set up, that's where it will be posted. And I'll send it to Christy when I find out. Okay, I apologize for that, you guys.
Thanks, Sid. We appreciate that.
Indeed. Okay, Christy, you want to wrap us up?
Yes, thanks, Nate, for helping to go through that whole process with, navigating the new dashboard, but also the reporting and application information. We really appreciate that. We just, as a final thing, we want your feedback. Just a really quick survey, 3 questions, that's it. But we just kind of want to get feedback on how useful was today's discussions. And then what are some things that you would like for us to be discussing during this year? And so we want your input on that. So if you will just click on that link for the early college coordinator meetings, we would like to have that feedback. Thank you so much for everyone coming today. And we know you're busy time of year, but this is a time for us to be able to meet and connect and be able to share information. So thank you.
Thanks, everyone. We'll stick around if you have any further questions. We can further troubleshoot dashboard stuff if that's helpful. Whatever questions you have, we're here to try to help with.
Thanks, you guys.
Thanks, Michelle.
Thank you.
Thanks all. Is that Camille? Okay. Ending recording.